all you Yanks come to Australia, the Grand Prix is great.
Somehow I don't think that man is from the Chamber of Commerce, but we appreciate the thought. Hello and welcome to the opening round of the 1997 Formula One World Driving Championship, the Grand Prix of Australia on the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit in Melbourne. I'm Bob Varsha. Once again this year, the Formula One season begins down under in Melbourne on Port Phillip, just off the Indian Ocean. The first of 17 races that will touch on 5 continents and surely produce a dramatic story. We've already had a dramatic round of qualifying. You're looking live at the grid. There is the new hire for Williams-Renault, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who hoisted himself up onto the front row for the first time in his Formula One career, alongside Jacques Villeneuve, who will start from pole. You've seen some of the highlights of the 1996 season. Let's now examine the new look of Formula One for 97. There is much that is new this year, including 2 new teams from Stewart and from Lola. Familiar drivers in new cars with new paint jobs, new designs, some of them very familiar. For the 6th time in the last 10 years, the #1 of the world champion is on a different team, and we have a brother act in Formula One for 97, as well as new sponsorship. Everyone faster than ever in off-season testing, but of course the off-season is now over, and it's time to go racing. Joining me once again this year, Derek Bell. Derek, let's break out the driver and engine changes for 97.
Yes, thank you very much, Bob. Yes, quite a lot of changes this year. Heinz-Harald Frentzen joins Jacques Villeneuve at Williams. Damon Hill, of course, reigning world champion, is out. He goes to join Pedro Diniz at Arrows, the very wealthy young Brazilian. At Jordan, Martin Brundle retires to take up the microphone, rather like myself. Rubens Barrichello also leaves, but Ralf Schumacher and Giancarlo Fisichella, they join Jordan. At Prost, we have Pedro Diniz leaving, but Shinya Nakano joining Olivier Panis. At Sauber, we have Nicola Larini. He's actually joining Johnny Herbert, who of course was there last year. At Tyrrell, Jos Verstappen is joining Mika Salo for probably a 3rd or 4th season there. At Minardi, we have Pedro Lamy, Giovanni Lavaggi. They're both leaving Formula One at the present time. And Yukio Katayama, Jarno Trulli are both taking those 2 seats there. We have 2 new teams, Stewart with Rubens Barrichello and Jan Magnussen, and Lola with Riccardo Rosset and Vincenzo Sospiri. On the engine front, we have Arrows. They had Hart before, now they have the Yamaha work steel. Tom Walkinshaw doing a lot of work on that engine. At Sauber, the V10 Ford has gone. They have a Petronas with the Ferrari 1996 engine. At Tyrrell, we have the Ford V8 customer engine. Minardi, they have a Hart V8. And Jackie Stewart's new team, well, they're the Works Ford V10 team. At Lola, they have a Ford V8 customer car.
Now, there are lots of headlines going on this weekend in Melbourne, but certainly the most anticipated debut in recent years in Formula One is the return of Jackie Stewart. Earlier in the weekend, our new pitman here on ESPN2, Jonathan Green, spoke with the world champ.
Lots of new changes for the 1997 season, and of course, perhaps the most exciting is that Jackie Stewart, the former 3-time world champion, is back in Formula One. Now, Jackie, this has got to be perhaps even more challenging than when you were driving.
Oh, a lot more challenging. You know, I used to arrive on a Thursday sometime, and I used to leave on a Sunday night. I mean, like, quick. Nowadays, it's a whole new business. The logistics of bringing a Formula One team to a Grand Prix like this, we've got 56 people in this little team, this new start-up team. We've got 20 tons of equipment. We've got 3 racing cars, and 1 year and 4 days ago, we didn't even have a line on a computer to design that racing car. So the logistics, the pressure, the problems of being a constructor or entrant are just so much more. A driver's life was very easy. Can I have it back, do you think?
Well, I don't know about giving it you back. You've certainly got a challenge on your hands now, though. What kind of goals have you set yourself for this season?
Well, I'm very realistic also, and I've never had impressions of grandeur when you cannot plot out what you think you can do. My view is that we've got to give it a fair bit of time. It's a 5-year program for us. It's not a short-term, you know, let's show ourselves up to be great in the first race routine. We know it's going to take us time. It's just a question of the public's perception of my past, if you like, accepting that they have to have patience for our future.
So the brave heart of Formula One, are you glad to be back?
Oh yes, it's a good environment. I know it well. I never really left it. I worked for ESPN for quite a long time, as well as ABC television, and I've done a lot for Channel 9 down here for every Grand Prix of Australia. So I never really left, but this is a different ball game.
Best of luck this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it. Thanks.
On the grid, the Australian national anthem being sung. Now, if the arrival of Stewart is one of the most anticipated headlines of this weekend, certainly all eyes will be on one of the great names in the sport, Ferrari. Here's Eddie Irvine, third-place finisher a year ago.
It was a good set of circumstances for me last year. Everyone came to this race pretty unprepared, and you know, the cards fell right for me. This year, everyone's come here a lot better prepared. I've come here a lot better prepared. We've all been testing at different places. We know the Williams is quick. Benetton, McLaren, and ourselves, we aren't quite sure who's got the upper hand at the minute, but we won't be long finding out. This year, I think I'm having a lot more input into the way the cars develops technically, and we have new people in the team that I think listen to me a bit more. So from that point of view, I think it'll be a lot better year for me.
The chaos, Ferrari is looking good. We'll have the starting grid when we return live to Melbourne, Australia. Stay with us. For Rubens Barrichello of Brazil, there is a new team and a new wife. He and his girlfriend Silvana got married about a week ago, and they're celebrating their honeymoon this weekend, combining business and pleasure, so to speak. Welcome back. Bob Varsha, Derek Bell with you. Derek, we've looked at the driver lineup and the engines. Let's talk about changes to Formula One chassis for 97.
Yes, there have been a few, Bob, but most of them in the safety area. We have a forward, slower suspension member, must be a lot stronger than it had been in the past. This has reduced the possibility of the wheel and all the suspension components actually hitting the driver. At the same time, they have further back, we have the energy-absorbing steering column. This partially collapses under pressure, and this is to limit the deceleration, of course, of the driver's head in the event of an incident. At the same time, we have a steering wheel on the car now, which is very heavily padded right in the center. This is, again, is to absorb the driver's impact should he have such a thing. Then, of course, we have the accident data recording. This is a box from Delco over in the United States, and this actually records all the information in the event of a crash. It's similar to the black box on an airplane, of course. And then right at the back of the car, we have a rear impact absorbing structure fitted to the gearbox. This extends rearwards from the center line of the rear wheels 18 inches backwards to reduce the risk of neck injuries. All cars must, of course, pass the very stringent test.
All right, now one of the great stories of the offseason has been Damon Hill changing teams. Jonathan Green tracked the world champion to his hotel to find out how things are going.
Well, with me, a man who needs no introduction, the current world champion, and a man who perhaps has a bigger challenge this year than he did last year in winning the championship. Damon, it hasn't been an easy preparation with the Arrows team this year, coming into this year's season, has it?
Not really, no. We had a lot of problems, reliability problems and stuff, so...
Now, you've said already that you don't expect, obviously, to win the championship, but it is going to be a different championship. Bridgestone tyres are in, there's quite a few new teams, and it could be quite an interesting year, couldn't it?
I think it's going to be a very exciting year for all Formula One fans. It's going to be a mixed-up year. You may even see a challenge at the front to the Williams domination. I think Ferrari looked like they're not too bad. But as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be very difficult for me to really make an impact on the front of the grid, but I'll be trying very hard to do that anyway.
You had a hard time making it to world champion, but you did it. You're always hard on yourself. What are your aspirations for this year?
So see progress, I think, is the only aspiration I have, to start off and get better.
You won last year, but you're going to enjoy it anyway this year?
Yeah, of course I enjoy driving. You know, I just once you get in the car and have a racetrack and competition, then that's where I thrive. That's where I enjoy myself.
Best of luck this season. We'll all be watching.
Thank you. Good.
Thanks, Dan.
And we add our best wishes as well. Now, this is only the second year for Formula One here at Albert Park in Melbourne. There's a lot that is not known about the track. Derek, let's talk about what we do know.
Yeah, well, it's a 3.275 mile circuit. Quite a good circuit, quite a good high speed, lots of medium speed corners, nothing really very, very slow. Turn one, you come into it 180 miles an hour, a little bit bumpy on the entry. Got to be very careful here. They set the cars up fairly softly. And then, of course, up that bit of a squirt to what I call Brundle's Dilemma, where we had that awful accident last year. And then up into this next section. Remember, the cars, they must be pretty darn hard on brakes. And, of course, they want to have the suspension set up fairly softly to take in these bumps while they're under braking. 171 mile an hour up into that braking area. Overtaking could be done, then sweeping down through this section here. up to about 185 miles an hour, in fact, before they break down for the third gear corner right-hander. Again, another area for overtaking. Pretty darn hard on the gearbox, pretty darn hard on the driver, of course, as well. Corners 14, 15, and 16. Really, it's just a matter of getting through them. Nice, neat lines to lead out onto that straight, where, of course, you're pulling up to 180 miles an hour. An interesting circuit. Drivers seem to like it.
It is an interesting circuit, and it has been a controversial one. But we are now just moments from the start of the race. Let's take a look at the way the drivers will line up for this opening round of the season. On the pole for the 4th time in his career, 2nd time here at Melbourne, Jacques Villeneuve of Canada in the Williams-Renault, leading 7 men under his pole time of a year ago. Next to him, his new Williams-Renault teammate from Germany, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, his first front row start in Formula One. Row 2, Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari and David Coulthard, McLaren, hoping to break a 49-race winless streak. On Row 3, Eddie Irvine in the 2nd Ferrari and Mika Hakkinen in the 2nd McLaren. On Row 4, Johnny Herbert in the Sauber Petronas Ferrari V10, and Jean Alesi, Benetton Renault, has been very disappointed here in Australia. Row 5, Olivier Panis in the highest qualified Bridgestone-tired car, the Prost Mugen Honda. Alongside him, Gerhard Berger in the 2nd Benetton. Row 6 is Rubens Barrichello. Jackie Stewart wanted a top 15 qualifying position. The Brazilian gave it to him. Alongside Ralf Schumacher, he and brother Michael become the first brothers to start a Formula One Grand Prix together since Jody and Ian Scheckter back in 1977. Row 7, Nicola Larini in the 2nd Sauber and the Jordan of Giancarlo Fisichella. On Row 8, Ukio Katayama in the Minardi and his Japanese countryman Shinji Nakano, the rookie, in the Prost Mugen Honda. Row 9 will be Jarno Trulli, the kart world champion in the Minardi Hart, and Mika Salo in the Tyrrell Ford. On Row 10, Jan Magnussen in the 2nd Stewart Ford, and Damon Hill, who squeaked into the field in his spare Arrows Yamaha, but he was much quicker in the morning warm-up. On Row 11, Jos Verstappen in the Tyrrell Ford, and Pedro Diniz, who was drafted into the field under extenuating circumstances after failing to qualify within 107% of pole. That 107% rule dropped 2 drivers, Vincenzo Sospiri and Ricardo Rosset. The new Lola Ford team will not get a start in their first Grand Prix race here in Australia. Drivers representing 13 countries and 2 tire companies will have more to talk about when we return live to Melbourne. Very shallow lake on the infield. Welcome back live to Australia for the opening round of the Formula One World Championship. Bob Varsha along with Derek Bell with you. There you see the layout of the track and the 3 intermediate points where the cars are timed. At the finish line, they're approaching 180 miles an hour, fastest part of the racetrack. And Jacques Villeneuve in the Williams-Renault has been simply dominant, Derek, all the way around the track.
Yes, everywhere they've been, Villeneuve seems to have been the quickest. The surprising thing was that Schumacher was so slow in 2 of the sections. Hello, who's this?
Damon Hill
already going slowly, pulling off in the very first race.
No.
I don't believe it. I mean, he was going so well this morning, would have put him 13th place on the grid. He's pressing buttons, talking to the pits, trying to sort out what the problem is, but that is very, very sad.
Now, Damon driving for the Walkinshaw Arrows Yamaha team. They've had horrible gearbox problems in testing and this weekend in Australia. They set up the suspension improperly in terms of tow out for his qualifying effort. In the morning warm-up, he was a 1.5 seconds faster than his qualifying time, but all of that appears to be moot. Damon Hill is out of the Australian Grand Prix before it ever begins.
That is a disaster. I mean, one can't even think what would have gone wrong there. But there's so many things to go wrong on a car when you actually look at it. But it is tragic for him. He put so much effort into yesterday. I mean, he probably drove a lot harder yesterday trying to get on the grid than he ever did trying to get pole.
He just squeaked in by a few tenths of a second in the spare car, narrowly avoiding becoming the first world champion in Formula One history to fail to qualify for the first Grand Prix of his title defense. But there will be no points for Damon Hill today. As you see, it is shirt sleeve weather in Melbourne. Temperature is fairly cool, however, 65 degrees, 75-degree track temperature, about 50% humidity, a light breeze, 8 to 10 miles an hour, and a 25% chance of rain. As the field comes around to complete its formation lap, we have a new starting procedure in Formula One this year. The lights over the grid will come on in sequence in the last 5 seconds, and when they go out, the race is underway. Notice that bright green screen high overhead, part of the new digital TV technology in Formula One. They can superimpose advertising on that screen. for some parts of the world. The field now coming off the dusted line, drivers left at the last possible moment. 2 bright yellow Jordans back there. The offseason is now complete. All the tens of thousands of hours of work. The grid is here. 17 races to come, beginning in Australia. All the hopes and dreams, all of the money and effort, it all begins now. Turn up the volume and enjoy the sound of tens of thousands of Formula One horsepower. Lights out, we're underway. Villeneuve to the right of your screen. Heinz-Harald Frentzen with a brilliant start.
He knew where to go. He went straight across in front of his team. Look at the Ferrari coming down the outside. Irvine. Oh, they're all going off the road.
Johnny Herbert.
What a sad situation. The Ferraris carry on. That was a bit of a stupid move by Eddie. Oh, my goodness.
And Jacques Villeneuve is off with
as well.
Herbert.
What did I say earlier about Villeneuve not finishing this race? Oh, he must be heartbroken. That was a very silly move of Eddie's, but there was nowhere to go. Dirty on the inside, you see. Dirty on the inside of the track, and that's what he hit.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen leading one of the McLarens, then one of the Ferraris. What a break for the German.
Oh, is one of the Jordans having a right moment.
That's Ralf Schumacher going around Rubens Barrichello in that white Stewart Ford.
Oh, Frentzen cannot believe his luck. He's out there in front, and he's going, what happened to my team? And I bet he's plugged into his crew. Here we go, as an example of the start. Here we are. Look at Irvine. Straight across there and pushed both Herbert and, of course, Villeneuve right off the road and out.
It's a view from on board one of the Benettons, and look at that Williams-Renault begin to pull away. The rumor in the offseason was that the Williams-Renault crew was sandbagging, not testing as fast as they could go. And to watch Jacques Villeneuve lap this track 1.7 seconds quicker than his own teammate, 2 seconds quicker than a non-Williams-Renault, that was Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari. It tells you that Williams-Renault will be very, very quick in 97, and they may, in fact, have not shown their hand in off-season testing. One of the Ferraris at Eddie Irvine's car.
Well, he was part of the incident at the beginning, and obviously he's damaged something. Well, I assume he has. It doesn't look like he's damaged anything, but it certainly got involved right at the beginning. Maybe he knocked the wheel back a bit, but he certainly came through. I mean, you saw all the smoke pouring off the inside, the tyres on the dirt, and of course he just, in my opinion, just pushed Jacques Villeneuve straight across into Herbert, and off they went off the road, and he carried on, but it wasn't much good for him because it obviously damaged his car. He had to. Look at Frentzen, he's actually streaking away from the field right now. What an incredible situation for this young fella. First race, all the conjecture during the winter, whether he's the man to do the job. But of course, right behind him, it looks like we have
David Coulthard.
This is a shot of the damage to his car. You can see the wheel is very towed in. Looks like he's got a flat tire, or it's actually touching the front spoiler. Looks like it's touching the front wing, and I think he's cut through. There you go. Yes, he's actually shredded his front tire, I would say, on the front spoiler when he actually nudged into Villeneuve or else into Herbert.
Remember at the top of the show, Eddie Irvine said, I'm getting more input into the car. I feel much more confident. We're much better prepared. You cannot prepare for collisions just coming off the line.
Hello, here we have...
There's one of the Jordans.
Yes,
that is
Fisichella.
Ralf Schumacher.
Ralf Schumacher, my goodness.
Their helmets are very similar.
Yeah. Yeah, he's well off the road. It's job to know whether he just pulled off or whether he spun off. He had 3 spins yesterday in qualifying. Job to see just what happened there. I've no doubt we'll get another shot of that in just a moment or two. We've got to get used to these new helmets. That's the trouble, Bob.
If you're just coming to Formula One, they do not have onboard starters. If you stall, you are finished.
You know, he's really stepping on it. I mean, he's really getting on it, this young man. He's not about to give anybody any daylight at all. He's just going to go, go, go. He's not even looking at his mirrors. He's going to actually floor it the whole way. Be very neat, although just now I thought he was getting a little bit ragged, but of course there is dirt and stuff on the road, particularly from people that went off during that incident earlier.
5 key cars already out of the race. Damon Hill, Ralf Schumacher, Jacques Villeneuve, Eddie Irvine, and Johnny Herbert. All of that work, all of that anticipation gone in the first couple of laps.
Yeah, and they're a long way from home, let me tell you, because they got to go all the way home before they come back out to Brazil. It's good to see the McLaren Mercedes going so well. It's good to see Coulthard up there. He's had a very good weekend. They've practiced very well. They didn't start well on Friday, but they seem to have got it together. The trouble is, you've got to realize they don't really get that much time on the track. And this is a circuit you cannot test on, you can't do any practicing, So everybody comes here very green, and of course they come from Europe where it's been very, very cold. They haven't done any hot weather testing, and they come to a circuit which is mid-70s and 80s when they get out there, and they have to adapt to those conditions.
Look at the interval that Heinz-Harald Frentzen has already opened up over this man, David Coulthard, sporting a bright red hair color for this race.
I think that was probably in sympathy for losing Marlborough. He should have it grey and silver stripes in it, in fact, on the West colours. But West being a cigarette company in Germany. But you see Schumacher is up the back of David Coulthard, and I don't think he's going to let him get away too much.
This McLaren introduced in a splashy rock and roll laced effort by the McLaren team at Alexandra Palace in London about a month ago. Cost the team over $1.2 million, but boy, did they get headlines. And in fact,
look at that car fly across, out of control. Oh, in the air, look at it, what a shunt. That was one of the stewards, wasn't it?
That's Jan Magnussen, I believe.
Verstappen. Sorry, no.
Oh, it's a Tyrrell. That is Jos Verstappen in the Tyrrell.
What, he flew off the road. He didn't get slowed down at all. Who knows what? It looked like his brakes failed. He just did not seem to decelerate at all. Here we go again. No deceleration. He gets out actually on the dirt on the outside. Nothing to stop him. Look at the way it took off. It actually digs into this shingle stuff and then bounces up. But look, he's right out there in the middle, and it's still the right way up. Very lucky young man.
So the attrition continues. Word from the Arrows pits. I almost said Williams. Damon Hill, a bad throttle sensor, ending his race before it ever began. We'll be back. To Melbourne, you ride with race leader Heinz-Harald Frentzen of Germany in the Williams Renault. And that's another phrase that doesn't roll easily off the tongue. Heinz-Harald Frentzen leading the race, driving for Williams Renault. It's a whole new ball game in 1997 in Formula One.
Of course, it will be Heinz-Harald at any time at all, because we'll get to know him so well that we'll all be calling, hello, Heinz-Harald, and we won't be getting the Frentzen bit. There aren't any other Heinz Frenzens out there. Heinz-Haralds out there.
Across the start-finish line, up to 180 miles an hour or so. What a debut for the German.
Meanwhile, behind, just in the shot just now, we saw Schumacher right on the heels of David Coulthard in the McLaren Mercedes. So very, very close indeed back there. And I'm sure Schumacher is not at all happy to see Frentzen pulling away, although he didn't doubt that he would, because Frentzen and he, there's been a lot of conjecture about the ability of Frentzen, and of course Schumacher has been a bit of a battle in there. There's been a lot of battle about Frentzen and of course Schumacher in their Mercedes days, Formula 3 days and stuff when they raced together, and of course everybody's saying that Frentzen was quicker. But there's nothing like a fast car to give you a lot of confidence to make you into even a quicker driver. And he's lucky he's full on his feet in the best car.
It has been a long road to Formula One for Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He was offered the Williams drive back in 1994 after that dark weekend in Imola, Italy, which Ayrton Senna was killed, as was Roland Ratzenberger in separate incidents. The Senna ride was offered by Frank Williams to Heinz-Harald Frentzen, but that was 2 weeks later at Monaco, where Frenzsen's Sauber teammate Karl Wendlinger had crashed and lay in a coma in a hospital in southern France. Frentzen told Frank Williams, I got my Formula One break from Peter Sauber. I cannot leave him in these circumstances. Frank Williams said, I understand, and I made a note, said Frank, that kind of loyalty would be rewarded with another shot at a Williams ride down the road. Good look there at David Coulthard of Scotland, with Michael Schumacher's Ferrari filling up his mirrors. Splashy new paint job on the McLarens. Here's another look at the start. Watch the traffic jam as they get down into the first turn.
And look at Irvine down the middle, on the outside there. He got actually pushed out wider than he intended, and of course then he got on that dirt. You can see the dirt on the inside, and then of course he loses across the road, punts everybody off. That is terrible for poor old Villeneuve, and of course for Johnny Herbert, who was third quickest in this morning's one. Johnny's wheels are still turning. He's obviously so upset about it. He's saying, well, maybe I can get out of here. There's a car in front of me.
And as we now know, there was damage to Irvine's car that led to him dropping out of the race.
It's hard to believe sometimes these guys are that professional. They're getting paid so much money, yet they make some drastic mistakes like that. But of course, it is entertainment, folks, and that's what it's all about.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen continues to pull away. Ralf Schumacher, we are told from the Jordan pits, dropped out with a broken gearbox. And they have been struggling with that unit this weekend.
A lot of people had gearbox problems here, but it's not totally the circuit, because in fact there is not great deceleration of the circuit. You go down to 3.3 G under its deceleration, I know, but they're not actually going down to 40 miles an hour. They're actually going down to a moderate speed and picking it up again, and it's the solid, the heavy deceleration, the massive acceleration that does damage it. Their medium speed corners, even the chicanes, are quite fast, but it is a bit bumpy, which does take its toll on the transmission. You can see sometimes under braking, it really bucks them about. See there, the car popping about as Frentzen hits the brakes. But of course, he wants to be really immaculate. He's got to drive immaculately to keep everything out of trouble.
58 laps of racing scheduled. We have completed 6. The running order is Frentzen as you watch him. David Coulthard second, Michael Schumacher third, Mika Hakkinen fourth, and then the Benetton boys, Jean Alesi and Gerhard Berger, who did not run at all well in the morning warm-up. But now they find themselves moving up as attrition takes over. Berger was 11th in the morning warm-up, Jean Alesi 19th. Things beginning to come around. They still have a long way to go, however. Best ever finish for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, third place at the Grand Prix of Italy in Monza in 1995.
Here in this car, we're actually out there today, is a Renault has actually built a new engine. It's a lower engine, and it actually goes lower in the chassis, so they have a lower centre of gravity, which again gives the Williams that extra ability to get around the corners quickly. And just the other day, I was talking about the young man, David Coulthard, at the launch of the McLaren in London. Most glitzy affair, as you said, with some really top singers there and groups, but nonetheless, talking to David about it, about the car, and he said the car is so much better than it was last year, much more stable, but he said it still isn't as smooth and as quick as the Williams. He said the Williams, for some reason, they do something to their suspension, they do something to the aerodynamics, which allows it to actually have less drag, which means the car goes through the air quicker, but has the same amount of downforce. This is a high downforce circuit, so if you can run a little less downforce, it means you have a higher top speed, and it's quite important. There are 5 areas where they're pulling over 170 miles an hour. And there in the background, behind Schumacher, you can see Mika Hakkinen making inroads on Michael Schumacher.
Look at Schumacher. Ferrari, to the best of our knowledge, and this is hard information to get, but Ferrari, to the best of our knowledge, is the only car in the field running the harder Goodyear compound. Each of the 2 competing tire makers in Formula One in '97, Goodyear and Bridgestone, can bring no more than 2 compounds. The entire field is using the softer of those 2 compounds, whether it's Goodyear or Bridgestone, with the exception of Ferrari.
But let me just say, of course, that the difference between the softer and the harder compound is between 0.2 and 0.5 of a second, which isn't really a tremendous amount. And the fact that Ferraris are running the harder tyre, we cannot judge just really what they're going to do. It might be they're just going to stop once. It might be they're going to stop twice and everybody else 3 times. And it's only conjecture at the moment. We just don't know what it is. But there is not as such a big difference as one used to have between the soft tyres and the harder tyres.
Well, if you're on a 2-stop strategy, we expect to see that pit stop around lap 19. The car stopping only once will do so around lap 29. 8 laps now complete as you look from high overhead and now down low. A lot of silver in that new paint job on the McLarens. That, of course, a reference to the Silver Arrows, the Mercedes teams of the late 40s. And the sports cars that raced so effectively on the world scene back in the 70s and 80s. Michael Schumacher drawing ever closer to David Coulthard. There's the top 6. We'll be back for more live from Melbourne in just a moment. Stay with us. In Melbourne, Heinz-Harald Frentzen and the Williams leads David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher. Let's pick up the action later on in the event. From Australian television, we're watching a replay of Giancarlo Fisichella in the Jordan, who overcooked it as he closed up in the draft behind one of the Stewart Fords and spins off into the gravel.
Lucky both of them didn't go off. He actually was quite clever, but of course once he locked the tyre up, he got it sideways and round he went. And I was just about to say, they've only got 50% of the Jordans left to sort of make their claim to get the Peugeot customer engines next year. Now they've got neither of them left in the race. It seems pretty unexcusable actually to go off the road in these races, in those situations. He shouldn't have got so close to that car in front.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen firmly in the lead. He has also just reset fast lap of the race. A terrific performance from the German in his debut with Williams Renault. There you get a look at the roads. This track is a temporary circuit made up of park roads here at Albert Park in Melbourne. And as Derek mentioned earlier, very dusty, very dirty, not a lot of rubber buildup with only one race weekend a year. Now Heinz-Harald Frentzen has traffic. Yes.
He has traffic. Now we're going to see just how well he gets through this. He's in an amazingly enviable position for anybody. He's in the lead in his very first race. He's got nothing to worry about behind, but this is where it gets a bit dodgy. He's right behind Denise, I believe I'm right in saying, and he has to take it very steady when he's overtaking these guys. New names in Formula One in front of them, and they might not be looking in their mirrors too well.
Pedro Diniz, just ahead of Diniz, is Shinji Nakano of Japan in the second Prost. And then one of the Minardis. So you're right, Heinz-Harald Frentzen is going to have to be very careful here. Not a lot of experience up ahead of him. But he is working lap number 17, and if he is on a two-stop strategy, he'll have a pit stop coming up soon. He might choose to come in early.
Yeah, he might well do, but you know, there seems to be quite a few places to overtake here. His problem is, these guys are so absorbed with the race they're having, they're not really thinking of looking over their shoulder. Of course, the Australian marshals, like any marshal in Formula One, should be waving blue flags at him, so he should have a good idea, or they should have a good idea who's right behind them. And I'm sure it must have by now, they must have caught him in their mirrors. And there are, as I said earlier, some pretty good overtaking areas, so we'll see him make a move soon. He's got to get on a very fast part of the circuit. You'll just see the superior power of that Williams just storm by a couple of the cars, or certainly one at a time. He's got a good shot here, coming down. Here we come. He's coming down into the back turn. No, he's got one. Yes, he's got one. He actually saw him waving by. Snips in behind him.
That was Diniz in the Arrows Yamaha.
I bet he cannot believe he's being lapped already.
Very slow corner. Slowest corner on the track. 46 miles an hour. Here he comes.
He's come in for his fuel stop. Not a good bit of bad bit of strategy there. Very good move. Speed limit, of course, in the pit road from there onwards. Presses the button on the steering wheel and goes into his pit at a constant speed, not over revving, not over speeding, we hope. Now let's just see how the pit stops go this year.
Mika Salo has the Tyrrell and Ukio Karayama, the Minardi, in the pits at the same time.
Well, we've no idea how fast that was, have we? That's a pity. Be nice to have seen how many seconds that took.
Looked good to me.
I wouldn't complain.
David Coulthard now moves into the lead, but of course his pit stop lies ahead of him. The question is, will there be one or two? 24.5 seconds from in to out for Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Now he'll have to get up to speed, get a good out lap.
Which is actually very quick indeed, because you need to, it's the in and out laps, your speed when you're actually off the track, getting in and getting out, it can make up 4 or 5 seconds lap difference, and that is a tremendous amount. You've worked yourself to death to get 5 seconds, and then you can lose it just from the pit stop. You can see behind him is Mika Hakkinen, behind him the two Benetton cars. Benetton's running a lot better than they were in qualifying and practice, but I think slightly helped by the fact that half the field's fallen out in front of them.
Jan Magnussen at the moment is being serviced for the first time by the Stewart Ford Grand Prix team. Pedro Diniz has also pitted. There's David Coulthard in first place for McLaren Mercedes.
Now we're going to see just if Schumacher does hang it out there. And just see what happens and how his tyres stand up to this. Remember, they've never done a test or have never driven these tyres in these warm conditions really anywhere. And this seems to be the problem that's been hitting Benetton, is that all their testing, they did more testing than anybody the whole winter. Testing problems they had, the car went very well, very few problems actually they had at all. Car run extremely well. They come here and the ambient temperature, track temperature is up, and suddenly all the testing work they've done seems to have been of no avail whatsoever. Hasn't helped them at all. So they're really scratching their heads and almost back to the drawing board. And after last year when they had a very poor season, very disappointed in the whole thing, they come to this season really with very, very high hopes.
Olivier Panis has pitted, as has Jan Magnussen. So they are on two-stop strategies. Panis' pit stop with the Prost Leger team, 22 seconds flat. More than 2 seconds quicker than the service Heinz-Harald Frentzen got from the Williams team.
That's very, very good indeed. Makes you wonder, of course, whether he took just as much fuel. So they might be running more economically, and they're being very conservative, being the first race of the year, first pit stop they've done. They're just taking it out. They don't want to take too many chances at this stage. It'd be awful to come in late, too late.
Mika Salo in the new all-white Tyrrell. Notice that single front wing bodywork member.
And of course there's some quite, here he comes, he's coming out. They don't have quite as much of this aerodynamic, if you know, front suspension or suspension components this year. They're only allowed to have certain thickness compared to depth, as it were, of suspension. So the guys cannot use their suspension for as aerodynamic aids.
Tyrrell this year powered by a customer Ford V8 rather than the Yamaha V10, which is now nestled in the Arrows, and Salo's been very outspoken about how glad he is to be rid of the Yamaha. They blew up more than 60 of them last year in competition and practice.
Well, we'll see how Damon Hill can handle it. Salo being from the Scandinavian countries, of course, he probably is a little bit quieter about his comments, but Damon will no doubt at some point, if it does go that way, he will have quite a lot to say about it.
Both of the Minardis are also on a two-stop strategy. Jarno Trulli and Ukio Katayama. Trulli is an interesting story. He has won virtually every title there is to win in kart racing, and that's K-A-R-T racing. Only in his third full year of any form of automobile racing, and he finds himself in Formula One.
Really, just, you know, because Minardi likes bringing on young drivers and has just a great delight in bringing on young drivers, and it's very, very important indeed to bring on a young driver and give him some chances. And he obviously has a great future ahead of him.
Great to see the new drivers come along. The crowd here in Australia appears to be down a little bit from previous years, despite the enticements of this race, a strong support race package, and a post-race concert by Joe Cocker. But there is a transit strike going on in Melbourne this weekend, a fact that has been decried by the local government as the greatest betrayal we have ever seen. Of course, there is also the ticket price is $370 for the best grandstand seats for the weekend, although you can get in on Sunday, today, for $56 general admission. Mika Hakkinen leads the two Benettons. We'll be back with more live from Melbourne in just a moment. Race leader David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher in second were waving to officials as if something were being sprayed up on them. Let's pick up the action later in the event.
You did this whole build-up so well.
Back live in Melbourne, Australia. David Coulthard leads Michael Schumacher at the head of the queue in the Grand Prix of Australia, but pit stops are looming for 5 of our top 6 cars. Running in third place, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, but he's going significantly slower in lap time than he was during his first stint on his first fuel load and first set of Goodyear tires.
Well, you can see, in fact, that Hakkinen was, in fact, 3 seconds behind Heinz-Harald, and now he's actually only 1 second behind. So, in fact, that group of 3, which is Hakkinen and the 2 Benettons, has actually caught up Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And this is just what these guys need in front, is they need a nice buffer, because they're going to go in and obviously lose 22, in fact, probably 25 to 28 seconds, because they've got to take a lot more fuel on if they're doing just a one-stop strategy race. But it is interesting to see Coulthard out there. It seems ironic, doesn't it? There he is, leading this race. It's been 50 Grand Prix since we saw a McLaren win a Grand Prix, and here they are actually leading one, which could be a victory. I mean, and it's a long way to go, and I mustn't say that, but it would be great to see it do it.
Well, for the sake of accuracy, there have been 49 races since the last win. If they don't win today, it will be 50. Hard to imagine that the last win for McLaren, second on the all-time list with 104 victories, second only to Ferrari. The last time a McLaren won was here in Australia, down in Adelaide, where this race used to be based, in the hands of the late Ayrton Senna, the last race of the '93 season.
Coulthard is driving absolutely immaculately, isn't he? Really driving very, very well. He's really settled in now. As I said earlier, in case it was missed, he did say the other day, the car is so much easier to drive, so much smoother to drive, and less nervous than it was. And he's just proving that right now. They did seem quietly confident. Mercedes seemed very much happy with the engine, but of course they did have this appalling Friday practice sessions. They weren't at all happy then, but ever since then they've gone near the front.
We are at the halfway mark of the race. 29 laps complete, a 58 scheduled. David Coulthard, the leader, now drawing away just a bit from Michael Schumacher. Coulthard working with a new engineer now. There you see David Coulthard with the fastest lap. Coulthard has a new engineer. He was working with David Brown, who came over with David Coulthard from the Williams team a couple of seasons ago. Brown has been transferred to other duties within the McLaren team.
That is very, very interesting, you know, to see that time he just did. That was, in fact, a tenth of a second quicker than he went in qualifying, which put him 4th quickest yesterday.
Well, this is a temporary circuit. The rubber is building up. The traction is getting better, and it is a lot cooler than it was in qualifying. Pat Fry is now David Coulthard's engineer in the McLaren team.
He's actually seemed to have stepped up a bit from Schumacher, or has Schumacher gone in for fuel? No, Schumacher's still there.
Shinji Nakano and Nicola Larini have pitted. Their one and only stop. So we expect David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, as well as Mika Hakkinen and the Benettons of Alesi and Berger in shortly. This West sponsorship, a big change for McLaren after 23 years with the Marlboro brand of cigarettes. West is a German tobacco brand owned by the Riemsma Group, which I only bring up because I noticed on the newspaper the other day that the Riemsma family paid the largest ransom in German history when the family heir Jan Philipp Riemsma was kidnapped, and they paid an $18 million ransom. The kidnappers were subsequently captured and convicted, but that was a rather large bag, I suspect. Benetton pit stop, Gerhard Berger.
He wants to get going.
A lot of fuel going in. Berger back out.
You see the stickers on his tires.
This is the 197th Grand Prix start for Gerhard Berger. He will soon join that very exclusive 200 GP club. 9 victories in those preceding 196 for a variety of teams, always in good equipment and very well paid. That was a long pit stop as they poured all that extra fuel in to allow Berger to go the rest of the way. They still await the first stop for this man, race leader David Coulthard.
And of course Michael Schumacher, who's just hanging on the back there. I like Berger's philosophy over it all. You know, I was reading an article about fitness and how these guys get all psyched up before. Oh, Schumacher's in the pits. Schumacher's come in for his fuel stop and of course some tires. And Berger has such a different view to all the others. He just says, well, as far as I'm concerned, if I haven't got psyched up by 20 minutes before the race, I'm never going to be psyched up. Anyway, here we go in.
16 men, 3 per wheel, plus fuelers.
See him wiping his visor there? I think somebody could have given him maybe a cloth to do that, but I guess it would have been too much. Not a bad stop. It was a pretty nifty stop there.
Many of these cars using hand clutches or button clutches, not the traditional left foot type clutch. 25.6 second stop for the Ferrari.
And Coulthard favors the old foot clutch, and Hakkinen likes the trigger clutch.
Schumacher does not, because as a former karting champion, he likes to use his left foot on the brake to balance brake and throttle to keep the car in balance. Very hard on brakes is Michael Schumacher, according to the team, because he uses them while the car is under throttle into a corner.
Whatever it is, the end result is he's pretty darn quick. He does earn his money. I mean, I know he gets paid an absolute exorbitant amount. In fact, he's just re-signed, I believe, for another 2 years for 88 and 89. Am I right in saying that with Ferrari?
At $30 million a year.
Yeah, another $5 million increase, which is quite nice. I could go along that. The amazing thing, of course, is that Willie Weber, his manager, also... Oh, look at that.
Shinji Nakano, the Japanese rookie, I believe that's the second time off and on for him.
He's finding parts of the circuit that nobody else has even discovered yet.
Not doing much for the lap time, however.
But Willie Weber happens to be obviously both the Schumacher's manager. He takes 20% of their racing income. I wouldn't mind that deal, would you?
Not a bad living.
And I mean, to have a guy like Schumacher, but he obviously very shrewd to pick those particular drivers. Very, very clever move.
And in fact, Weber not only represents Michael Schumacher, but also Ralph. You see the gap, Coulthard to new second place runner Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Williams Renault. David Coulthard still has his stop to make.
Here we go. Here's another incident.
Another
there
look
we go.
at
That's
Nakano
it.
going off.
He just never got on the brakes at all, did he? Well, not early enough anyway. He didn't even have them locked up when he went off. He probably thought, oh, never mind. It's astonishing how well it slowed down because he sort of looked like he was really out of control and just drove it round.
Pedro Dinitz made his second stop, rather early one, in the Arrows Yamaha. Could be a mechanical problem there.
I would think that the fact that Frentzen isn't making many inroads on Coulthard, and he's actually got a lighter load of fuel than either he or Schumacher. Well, he hasn't got a lighter load of Coulthard right now, of course, because Coulthard's got to go in and top up. But I think it shows how well these Goodyear tyres have stood up to the bashing they've had. This hard set of tyres. Well, we actually don't know. He's probably wearing a soft tyre. Well, we were told they are, but you know, there's so many stories told. Can you really believe that he's really on a soft set? We know the Ferrari's on hard, yet funnily enough, they're both running the same times and running nose to tail. You just don't know.
The drivers are saying there is not a tremendous difference, maybe half a second a lap. Race leader is in, and the McLaren team goes to work.
Now it's going to be interesting to see just how Schumacher, or what sort of a lap Schumacher gets on this lap. And of course, whether he comes out. Ooh, what a quick stop. 9.6 seconds. Of course, that we don't know yet. He's got to do the total in and out time. We'll get that any second at all to know how he gets on. Now where is Schumacher?
24.2 from in to out.
And no sign of
David Coulthard. Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
130.
And that's exactly what Frentzen needed to do. Get that fast lap while his opponent was stopped.
But in fact, you realise that was quicker than he qualified in by nearly a second. But he didn't have a very good qualifying time session at all, and Frentzen only actually got his time after a red flag incident, and they actually let all the cars out for 2 minutes at the end of the session yesterday, and that's when Frentzen popped himself up from like 5th or 6th on the grid right up to the front row in second place.
Coulthard back out once again. Heinz-Harald Frentzen back in the lead. We'll take this opportunity for a timeout and be back down under in a moment. Mika Hakkinen. Oh, and off the track
goes
comes
Alesi.
Jean Alesi, who
Pulls
is
off.
due for a pit stop. I believe he's out of fuel, Derek.
Well, that's a pretty good surmise, Bob. Who knows? He would be absolutely so disappointed. I mean, they were standing there ready for him to come in. That was a silly move if he did run out of gas. He was coming in that lap.
He was running second. David Coulthard's pit stop dropped him back. The order was Frentzen, Alesi, Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Olivier Panis, and Mika Hakkinen, who just made his stop in 24.2 seconds. I think Alesi ran out of gas.
Oh, he must be so dejected. He's had such a miserable weekend, and he was running quite well in the race there. Not exceptionally well, but they're in their usual sort of 4th and 5th place, and there he is talking back to the pits. He's absolutely so disappointed.
They have very sophisticated fuel meters on these cars, but they are not always entirely accurate, despite the sophistication. Fast laps continuing to unfold. Keep in mind, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, the race leader, has another stop in his future.
One assumes he has. I mean, he should have. And therefore, he's got another 24 seconds he's got to get a heck of a lead. He's got to get up to about 26 seconds to be happily in front of David Coulthard, and he's only 18 at this time. Of course, he's turning in fastest laps at the moment, but it should be quite interesting, I must admit. That's assuming he does go in for another stop. The Williams basically has always been able to do amazingly good long runs. It's very easy on tyres. The car never stresses the car out, and always the best handling car, the quickest car, the best sorted out car is going to be the most economical on tyres and of course and the fuel.
Pushing off the corner, the best engine in Formula One for the last half dozen years or so. The V10 Renault in its final year as a factory effort before the technology is sold to the Mechachrome company, as Derek mentioned earlier, part of the Renault racing family, if you will. And that will keep the Williams team in business, although in the future they will pay for their engines to the tune of about $10 million a year. Small price to pay, I guess, in the eyes of Frank Williams, if it keeps you with the best engine around. There you see the lap comparisons between Heinz-Harald Frentzen and David Coulthard running first and second. At this point, Frentzen drawing away as he needs to in preparation for that second stop, which should come around lap number 39. So the German has by far his best opportunity ever to get his maiden Formula One win. Stay with us. You ride with race leader Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Williams Renault. Looks easy, huh?
Yeah, a piece of cake. But that last move I thought was a little bit close. Goodness gracious me, that was lovely to do a lap of the circuit. It's about time we did that. Then all of us at home can just see just what the circuit really is like on a driver's eye view. It was interesting, though, to note that he didn't seem to make much impression on that car for quite a while. Into sort of the slower speed corners, he didn't, and that it wasn't because there'd be turbulence. He wasn't really that close enough to get the turbulence that one would anticipate from, from a high-speed car.
It was one of the minorities that he was lapping. The technology of Formula One, absolutely mind-boggling. Those instantaneous gear shifts.
Yeah. Nice little sequential gearbox, a fingertip control. He's working his way through very, very well. I must just go back one thing, Bob. Just now you were talking about the Renault deal with Mechachrome. It was interesting. I read somewhere the other day that in fact, although it costs Frank Williams £10 million a year, that's $16 million a year for the engines at the end of this season. In fact, there is a rumor that BMW, who are building a V10 for the year 2000, obviously would like to go in the Williams car because that's when this deal with Mechachrome would be up. And of course, there's a little rumor that maybe BMW are paying the bill for Williams to buy Renault engines from Mechachrome for next year. Now, how do you like that one?
That's a pretty stiff tab not to get the publicity out of it.
Yeah, but they want Williams that badly in the year 2000, you see.
Well, can't blame them for that. Yeah. Olivier Panis has pitted from the 6th spot. His second stop, we're working lap number 39. We expect Heinz-Harald Frentzen will make his next stop. Now, that gap back to David Coulthard in second was up over 23 seconds. It's closed down just a little bit now.
It's probably because of that traffic, in fact, that he had just now. He was having he didn't take any chances. He worked his way through 2 or 3 cars. Schumacher's pulling away a little bit from Hakkinen, but he's not sort of doing too much to David Coulthard. But of course, as we just said, this guy here has actually got to make some quite quick laps now, because the area, if he went in the pits, he would lose up to 24 to 26 seconds on a stop. That's if they're going to do a 2-stop. There's nothing to say that they didn't fill the car right up with fuel and are going to try to run the end on the tyres that he's got. But only time will tell.
Jan Magnussen has made his 3rd stop.
There he goes.
Team race leader is in. Now it's up to the Williams team to help their man win this race.
This is going to be very, very interesting indeed, because you can bet your life David Coulthard knows he's in the pits. He knows it's going to be 22 to 24 seconds, and there's a gap of 22 at this time. He's pressing that little white button like a crazy man there, trying to keep on the speed limit. The last thing he needs is a stop and go at this point. 75 mile an hour is the speed limit in the pit lane. Here we go. Let's just see how quick. It's got to be 9 seconds. Oh, that's a slow one.
Problem with the right rear.
Problem with the right rear. That's it. He's had it. He's going to be behind now, boy. They've dropped it. Off he goes. But he's going to have about like a 32-second pit stop. Now, who's this coming round? Coulthard may well have gone by. We don't know at this point. Coulthard, I think, should have gone by. There you go. Coulthard, he's 3rd. And he's going to have a battle on his hands. He's got Michael Schumacher in front of him, who's his arch rival, the one man he'd love to beat more than anything and be the hero in Germany. He's wiping his visor, wiping a tear off, maybe peeling the tear off as he comes down. He is going to be a very sick man, and that wasn't very good. Something went wrong in that middle session, somewhere in the middle of that run of his, where he didn't make the pace up, didn't pick up the pace the way he wanted. Maybe there was a problem with the rear wheel, who knows? But in fact, it seemed to be just when they were fastening the new rear wheel on the car.
So, David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher are out ahead, and they, we presume, will not stop again. They're on a 1-stop strategy. Mika Hakkinen, Gerhard Berger, and Olivier Panis follow. Notice Panis did not lose 6th place on his stop.
This guy's got to go like the wind now. He's got to clock in some 1:30, 1 minute 30 step. Now who's that behind in a red? Oh, this is the two leaders. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Schumacher, in fact, isn't so far behind Coulthard, and he will know what happened to Frenzen right by now. You know, Frenzen's behind him. He's got to step on it, and now this is Schumacher's chance to win for Ferrari. This could be one heck of a battle for about the last 15, 16 laps.
Don't be afraid to expose yourself to our audience out there. According to Formula One, some 41 billion people around the world watched Formula One action in 1996. I don't know how they come up with these numbers, but obviously you're in good company. David Coulthard leads with a very real shot at ending McLaren's 49 race victory drought, but we still have 18 laps to go. Stay with us. Michael Schumacher and the ominously smoking Williams of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Let's pick up the action now later in the race. Back live to Melbourne, Australia. There you see the top 6. 7 laps to go. Next time across the start-finish line. Michael Schumacher has the Ferrari in second.
Stewart is out. There is one Stewart missing from the field. You're right, Bob.
Jan Magnussen is gone.
It wasn't his first Grand Prix because, in fact, he drove for McLaren, didn't he?
That's right. He substituted for Mika Hakkinen, who had a case of appendicitis a couple of seasons ago. But he had very little time in Formula One cars. Drove very well on that occasion in Aida, Japan, at the Pacific Grand Prix, it was then called.
I wonder what orders that we're getting to that Rothman's Williams back there and just what he's being told to do. You know, maybe he is being told to cool it. He's not going to get by Michael. Better to get 3 points than no points. They're catching up. I think a tail ender in front of them there. There's somebody slightly in their way. Yes, there is a car. Oh, Schumacher's in the pits.
Michael Schumacher is pitting with 7 laps to go. Is this for a splash? He is pounding in. Now I'll have to slow to the pit lane speed limit.
How can it be for a splash of gas at this stage? I can't believe that's
or
what it's for.
Perhaps he sensed a puncture.
No, that is terrible, because I really hoped that he was going to get some points there.
Scuffed tires going on.
He's right on that rev limiter as he comes up there, or shall I say the speed limiter. Off he goes. He's allowed to floor it now, but he is coming out ahead of Hakkinen. I think I'm right in saying so. Actually, he's still probably in 3rd spot, whereas he was in 2nd spot.
I didn't see fuel go in, so it must have been for tires. Michael Schumacher must have sensed something, perhaps a slow puncture.
Yeah, it must have been a puncture or a massive vibration he had, which he might have got from locking up. You can lock up the tires, get a flat spot. We've all had those.
And he only lost 1 place. Extraordinary.
Well, he wanted a podium finish. He may well just get that.
Pedro Diniz has been lapped by Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Oh, there's that cloud of smoke again out the back of the Williams. But he doesn't seem perturbed by it. They're just driving it anyway.
All things come to he who waits, or at least 2nd place does.
Well, he's not making any time up on David Coulthard. Sorry to interrupt you, Bob. Coulthard is still streaking away there. I shouldn't have said that. Kiss of death when I say that. He actually is catching David Coulthard up. He'll be an easy person to get by than Schumacher would have been. It must have been something major on Schumacher's car to come in, because he hadn't slowed much. He had actually dropped back a few feet from David Coulthard, but not enough to one said, my goodness, he's got a major problem, and he was staggering around.
Well, even Michael Schumacher can't carry a car on 3 wheels to the finish. Right now, the points-paying top 6 positions, you see the course littered with cars now. David Coulthard, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Michael Schumacher, Mika Hakkinen, Gerhard Berger, and Olivier Panis. Panis will give Bridgestone, it would appear, its first Grand Prix points. Apparently the fuel did go into Michael Schumacher's car, but I remain convinced that that was not the primary reason he pitted. What a moment this could be, though, for David Coulthard, the young Scot who won a race in Portugal 2 seasons ago for Williams-Renault and then made the jump to McLaren, where he, along with that team, has struggled in the last couple of seasons, but now he has the opportunity to end their drought short of the 50-race mark. His 2nd career win, it would be McLaren's 105th, second only to the 108 of Ferrari on the all-time list. Just a handful of laps to go. We'll be back with more live from Australia. Stay with us. in Melbourne, Australia. March 8, 1997. David Coulthard staring squarely in the face of a possible second career victory, the first for the McLaren Mercedes team. Well, basically the first for McLaren Mercedes as a team.
And what about it for their sponsors? It's interesting to note, though, that in fact, the Williams is not making any inroads on David right now. In fact, if anything, he's falling back. Now, there must be something wrong with the car, because there's no way when you're could win your first Grand Prix, you're going to back out of it. And Heinz Harald has been backing out of it the last couple of laps. He's obviously opted for second place, but that wouldn't be his decision. He's been told, back out of it, kid, the car isn't going to last, or else the car is purely losing power. There is always that possibility. And Coulthard is now lapping 1.5 seconds quicker than Frenzen on the last lap. But he's got all the gears, so it isn't the gearbox. Hear that down the fifth gear, sixth gear. Down to third, through here. Up to fourth, up to fifth. Hold it, down to fourth, down to third. Almost down to second. Isn't it wonderful the way they just flick it down? Just wonderful. We had that on Rover Ferrari at Daytona a few weeks ago. We had exactly the same type of gearbox. Of course, it wasn't operated from the fingers, but by literally on the steering wheel. You just, the downshifts, it was just wonderful just to keep your foot in it the whole time. No, he's not making any inroads at all. David is easing himself away up there. Ooh. No, that's it. Whoa, he lost it. Oh, there's oil on the rear tyres. I bet that's what it was. Oil on the rear tyres, and out he goes. That possibly was oil on the rear tyres. I don't know if whatever that was. It could well have been something to do with this smoking situation he had at the back of the car. What a frustration for the guy.
Looks like his fire extinguisher went off inside the car. They are spraying.
It's spraying. It may well have gone off. You see, you don't know what the smoke, if there's any smoke drifting forward from the engine at the back. If he had oil on those rear tyres, I mean, you have to admit, had been smoke coming out. Poor guy. What a drive. He had a magnificent drive. His opportunity of going for gold, as they say, really rather like Villeneuve's last year when he could have come out winning his first Grand Prix. Neither of the Williams are going to finish the Grand Prix. That leaves David Coulthard to cruise home, we hope.
Well, Australia is one of the few countries on the Formula One Tour where you can walk out to the racetrack, walk up to the betting parlor, and put a bob or two down on a race, and I would guess a lot of money is changing hands on this one. They were long odds on a McLaren winning and neither Williams finishing the race.
Lost a few dollars there, mate. In fact, we were discussing the betting program just before this on RPM, and it's very obvious that money will have been lost. Some will have won.
With Frenzen out, that makes the order Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, and Mika Hakkinen. Not only will McLaren pick up the win, it would appear, we still have a couple laps to go, but there will be 2 McLaren drivers on the podium, and Nicola Larini returning to Formula One.
Now here we go. There's another shot of him actually. Something at the back of the car is that. Look at that rear tire exploded.
Or a brake disc, I think.
A brake disc. You're absolutely. Look at the brakes on the rear, red hot. The front brake disc exploded, and off he goes. Oh, how tragic for the guy. How tragic for the guy. Yes, that was that front brake disc. It probably did explode, Bob.
You saw all that carbon dust from these carbon-on-carbon brakes.
So they run at about 1100 degrees, these carbon brakes, whereas the old steel brakes only ran at about 600 degrees. And boy, when they go, there's such an amazing amount of heat in them. That's it. Michael, 28 seconds behind. And that's going to be the order we anticipate for the end of the race.
Let me get back to Nicola Larini, who came with the Ferrari engine package, now called the Petronas engine, in the Sauber, will pick up the 6th and final
Here we go
point.
Again. Sorry, another shot. You couldn't see it exploding quite as. There it is. There's the smoke belching off it just at that point there. Of course, and a nice flat spot on the tyre where, of course, the poor guy, he just could not get the wheel to turn because the wheel had locked up solid. Hark at all the shingle coming down on it. So like the Gulf War.
Of course, it all happened at a much quicker pace. What a frightening moment for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, matched only now by the disappointment. Michael Schumacher, meanwhile, a very quiet second place at this point. Once again, notice all that oil
Yeah,
some of that had come from the McLaren.
Well, it may well have done, because the McLaren's only got all on one side of the wing. I noticed in a shot earlier. I thought it was all from the Yamaha earlier, but you know, we just don't know, do we? There's certainly a lot of oil on that rear wing, but it would show up on both of the wings, but it doesn't seem to show up as bad. There's nothing on that. Of course, that's Hakkinen, we can see there.
And Hakkinen is going to have to move quickly. He's got Gerhard Berger in the Benetton just behind him with 1 lap to go. There's the running order. Those men will earn points in the first round of the Formula One World Championship. The next stop a couple of weeks from now will be in Brazil, with Argentina to follow. And then after a long, long road trip, the teams will be back on home turf in Europe. And the Formula One season on the continent will begin. Notice all the marbles off the track. That's another sign of the soft compounds being used in the Formula One tire war, new for '97.
Looks like it's been perfect racing conditions. It's been overcast. It would have been sort of early 70 degrees. Wonderful driving conditions. But you see, the oil is only on one side of the rear wing of Coulthard's car. Interesting that. What a great race for David Coulthard. He must be very, very happy. He's only got a few miles to go now. Very, very happy man if he wins this race. That is for sure. Here he comes.
To the line he comes, an early 26th birthday present. David Coulthard gives himself. He'll turn 26 on March 27th. He has ended McLaren's losing streak at 49 races, giving them their 105th victory. Michael Schumacher will come home for some very useful second place points for Ferrari. Notice how dirty it is offline as the drivers swoop over to the pit wall to salute their teams. Mika Hakkinen unofficially third, Gerhard Berger fourth. A tremendous season opening run for McLaren.
They weren't far behind Schumacher. I wouldn't swear to it that the only problem he had was with fuel, because he didn't take any time off Hakkinen or Berger, did he? He finished just a few yards in front. There might have been a problem. But what a great, great start for the McLaren Mercedes West team. I mean, just outstanding for them this season. They've had such a low period for such a long time. There's been so much depression, so many long faces, and they've been there a long time. They deserve a victory.
There will be celebrations at Woking, their base just outside of London. The season has gotten off to a great start for David Coulthard. But the celebrations are just beginning. When the field has come to a stop, you can bet this crowd will be out there to salute the podium finishers. And we'll have some time to show you that celebration. We'll take a quick time out and return with more live from Melbourne, Australia. David Coulthard, your winner. We'll be right back. Mika Hakkinen, who will be on the podium in third, and spare a thought for the Finnish driver. 2 years ago, in the last race of the '95 season, when the Australian Grand Prix was held on the streets of Adelaide, Hakkinen had a terrible crash, suffered head injuries, was a long time coming back, a life-threatening crash, a career-threatening crash, but he came back. There were questions about his ability last year. Now he is back on a Formula One podium, and it is richly deserved. Here's a look at the unofficial results. David Coulthard, his second career win. Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen on the podium. Gerhard Berger, Olivier Panis, and Nicola Larini in the 5th and 6th positions. First points for Bridgestone tires on Panis's Prost Mugen Honda. The other classified finishers, Shinji Nakano of Japan in his rookie start. Good performance for him. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who led the race from the front row, suffered that brake accident that took him off with a couple of laps remaining. He still finishes 8th out of the points. Jarno Trulli in his Formula One debut is 9th. Pedro Diniz finishes 10th. Of course, his teammate, reigning world champion Damon Hill, was out of the race before the lights ever went out. Here's a look at the Drivers' Championship. Fairly straightforward. Our top 6 finishers are now the top 6 in points. And what a day it is for McLaren. Now on the podium, there's Mika Hakkinen. He had 4 podiums last year, but you can bet this one today in Australia means an awful lot to him. Ron Dennis there shaking hands. What a moment for that man, who has struggled with this team, a proud man, sometimes a bit brittle, considered one of Britain's greatest managers. Great day for him as well. God Save the Queen. The British national anthem plays in honor of our winner, David Coulthard, a Scotsman by birth, but a British Formula One driver. Well, Grand Prix drivers certainly earn a good living wage, but it's moments like this that many of them, I'm sure, would turn in that hefty paycheck every year to have. Victory, to stand atop a podium with the adoring crowds around and accept a trophy like this one. Only the second time David Coulthard has had that opportunity. You can bet that the man to the right of him, Mika Hakkinen, in third place on the podium, certainly hopes to get his first Formula One win this season. And based on the performance of the McLaren Mercedes team here today, it might just happen. Michael Schumacher accepting second place honors. Always a happy man on the podium, and why not when your adoring crowd is out there cheering you on. Michael Schumacher looked a little bit tired when he got out of the car, however. As Derek Bell mentioned earlier, he is a very fit individual. It's rare for Michael Schumacher to look a bit knackered when he gets out. Now the ceremonial bottles of champagne are in hand and the fun really begins. Careful there, David. Soaked in champagne, the winner, of course, carrying the silver magnum of Moet and Chandon, the official champagne of Formula One. And David will keep that honor. Michael Schumacher, of course, has many of them. Winningest active driver in the series. All in all, a dramatic day to follow on a dramatic qualifying session yesterday here in Melbourne. This is any indication of the kind of action we're going to see as the year goes on. Formula One should be very entertaining in 1997. The next stop on the globetrotting Formula One Grand Prix Series will be the Interlagos circuit in Sao Paulo, Brazil in 3 weeks' time. You can bet Williams will be back, hoping to avenge today's defeat. I'm Bob Varsha for Jeremy Green and Derek Bell. Thanks for being with us. So long, everyone.